Okay, 2 seconds now. Let me sort out the mic. Okay, I'm just gonna check if microphone has to unmute it. Right, let me do just a little audio test here and make sure we're all clear. Yeah, mic is good, graphics are good. We are live for season 4. And obviously the announcement of tier 2. So hello everyone joining in. Be sure to like the stream. We have Gaffo joining here, I believe.
Yep.
How's it going,
Good
Gaffo?
afternoon.
How are you?
I'm all good. All good.
Good.
Yourself?
Good now, yeah. Hope you had a good Christmas. Hope it was nice.
I did, and I'm sure you did as well on the new PS5.
I am enjoying it. The graphics are much better, I hope.
Well, we'll see.
We will, yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to plug in my laptop here because it doesn't seem to be charging. So 2 seconds.
Alright, no problem.
Hang on, there might be something with the cable. Okay, for some reason my laptop won't charge. Oh well.
I have everything here now anyway, so I think we're all good.
Yeah, that's fine. It should last for a little bit longer. I'll figure it out later. So yeah, we're obviously approaching the end of season 3, and then we have 3 weeks, but we are in for a busy 3 weeks because next week we have trials happening. Obviously the dates are up, and both tiers are aware of when these tiers are happening, or when these trials are happening. So obviously tier 1, the trial for that is next Thursday, and I'll explain just the format there for those who are looking to know. So we'll have 2 25% races that are going to be one-shot qualifying, and then obviously it'll go into the grid, and that's basically just to see which tier 1 driver is quicker and which tier 1 driver might struggle and might need to be put in tier 2, and vice versa obviously for the tier 2 trials as well. If there's anyone who's too quick for tier 2, then they'll obviously need to go up to tier 1, and it's just to give us an indication so that we get the teams and all the drivers right, obviously before we start the new season in about 4 weeks time actually. So a month until we are properly racing again.
What date is it? I think it's 29th or 27th.
So
what is it?
I think tier 1 is the 26th of January, and then tier 2 is the 27th.
Okay.
So
yeah, a month, pretty much, exactly a month.
Yeah, so like pretty much tier 1 and tier 2, Thursday and Friday, I think they're the most suitable days. Obviously with LOI, it collides with a lot of the drivers here, but we have a lot of new drivers in Gaffo, thanks to your recruitment.
Yeah,
Um,
and obviously the same for Wolves.
yeah, he got a good few in there as well today, so that is good to see that. The league has definitely attracted more drivers, which is good to see. We're up to, I believe, 53 members now from
Yeah, and
50.
then we have, I think it's 31 actually planned on racing next year in a full-time seat, nine seats remaining. Obviously, some could leave again when they find out their tier, and maybe some become unavailable last minute, almost like kind of Wolves. So
Yeah,
people may drop out. So we just need to keep up the recruitment. Hopefully, get to a good amount of reserves and drivers, and see what we have going into round one.
absolutely. Well, looking at your ratings, the URC ratings, it's looking like a competitive tier one at the moment. What's your opinion on tier one so far for next season? How it's shaping up and how is it looking?
Yeah, well, there should be a lot more as well. Obviously, the grid is actually fairly spread out as far as times in both tiers because of the tracks that have been selected. Singapore is a track where people can score, like, people can have loads of different times because obviously it's so long. So a 1:36 would be considered a good lap, and at the same time a 1:37 would be considered a good lap. But if you think for the next track, then you have Austria, where a 1:04 is considered a good lap, and 1:05 you technically say wouldn't be considered a good lap. So, like, I think the big spread out in the field really shows who the quickest are, and those quickest are SJR, FaZe, J. Joe Lancer, Bunsey, Tomas, etc. Those drivers should be the ones that will be up high, hopefully next season, as our predictions. Surprisingly, obviously, with myself looking at it, the season 3 champion's actually quite low. And maybe that's
Yeah,
because he doesn't put much towards time trials, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure he'll still be up there next season anyway.
yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, we're going to look at we do have obviously a tier two being established, but it's going to be in the F2 cars. So let's look at the teams that are going to be participating. Obviously, the cars, not the actual drivers. We haven't really announced them yet, but one of the first teams we'll look at is Prima Racing.
Yeah,
So they
and
are
they're
one of the 10.
yeah, and I'll get the links on what F1 team they're linked to. Because obviously we're not going to have separate team chats for these F2 teams. They're all going to be linked to a higher tier 1 team,
Yeah,
and more than likely it's actually their academy. So if I look now, I'm just going to try and find the screenshots. I know already just by looking at the liveries that Prema is going to be the link with Red Bull.
yeah,
So give kind of a tour about those cars. They're very, very similar cars.
they are. Yeah,
I think
they're
Dennis
obviously they're.
Hoggers has a little bit more
He does.
sponsorship,
Yeah,
but I think more than that, they're fairly, very similar.
and I think they might. We obviously don't know their lineup yet, but we could be seeing a lot of them maybe challenging at the front in
Yep.
F2, maybe depending on their lineup. But I do like to look at their cars. Obviously, it is for the Red Bull Academy, so Prima looking very, very nice. The next team we have Virtuosi. We know immediately these guys are Alpine, or the
Yeah.
Renault Academy, we'll say.
Well, obviously that's actually I think what they used to be like completely based on. They used to be based on Renault, but now they are kind of a little bit different. Obviously, the first car does have Alpine branding all over it. Second one doesn't, but you can still kind of see from the livery that it is linked to Alpine. So both of them will be in the Alpine chats, and they'll be linked with that team.
Yeah, I am liking the Jack Doohan's car. It is a bit more designed than Sato's,
Yeah,
so it is a bit different between those two. The next one is Carlin. Bit more of a Red Bull look on these, but obviously Carlin, I believe, are
Williams.
Williams. Yeah,
Yeah, mainly just because of that second car.
yeah,
With the Williams branding on it, we couldn't find anything else that is really that close. And I know it's quite annoying that they are linked to Red Bull, but that Red Bull first car, Liam Lawson, that driver, whoever is using Liam Lawson's car, that driver will be in the Red Bull Academy, obviously because of the Red Bull car.
yeah,
The driver using the Williams, on the other hand, he'll be in the Mercedes Academy for, obviously, Williams are linked to Mercedes. So
yeah. Moving on then to High Tech GP. I believe these guys are Haas.
They are Haas. So both of these cars are Ferrari Academy drivers.
And Yuri Vips's car has pretty much very little sponsoring on it. It's very
I don't think
plain.
it is anything. I think it's just completely plain.
Yeah,
I think there's some stuff on the front. That's about it.
get a nice look here at High Tech as they enter their first season with us. A lot of these, I'm actually excited to see how the F2 cars work. And I'm sure yourself, Gaffo, as you're going to be a Tier 2 driver, I'm sure you're excited to drive them and race in
I
them.
have been driving them a little bit as well because I kind of knew that my pace has dropped a lot since obviously the old game, and although I may have done well in League of Ireland over the course of last season, um, I know that URC is very competitive and that I may have to be down low, but obviously with the new setup coming in, I'm going to try and race with no assists whatsoever other than maybe driving line and ABS, but so it's going to be a tough year for me anyway. But hopefully the pace can come, and with maybe a bit of changing schedule as well going into maybe September of
Yeah,
23. I might be able to rejoin URC 1, but at the moment I'm just excited to get back into the URC and racing URC 2.
well, that's good to hear. I'm glad you're happy to be back racing here. We know there was obviously ups and downs throughout the last seasons, but we're glad to have you back. Next team then is ART, Alfa Romeo. Obviously, they're Alfa Romeo's junior team. Um,
Yeah,
I
and
like the look of
also
these cars a lot. They're
also if you look
very,
at Teo Porchere's car, I think it's the only one that actually says on just below the airbox it says Sauber Academy.
oh yeah, yeah, I see it there.
That's how I knew it was definitely going to be Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I definitely like to look at that first car. Um, I don't know why. I think the sponsors just look a lot more cleaner than Porsche's car, and whoever's in that one, I think, may have one of the best liveries on the grid. But we'll see.
Yeah, next up then we have MP Motorsport. This is basically McLaren's team.
Yeah,
Looking very, very good. I like the liveries.
yeah. Obviously, quite obvious with the fact that they're orange. Obviously, McLaren are the same, so they'll both be Mercedes Academy drivers. That's kind of all I have to say. Just have a good look at the livery. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see who does be racing them.
Next up then we got Campos. This is your favorite team.
Yeah, this is the link to Mercedes. I couldn't really quite find a car that was really close to Mercedes, and although the number one driver at the Ollie Cadwell seat is Alpine, he'll be at the Alpine Academy. So that's what whoever's driving that car, I think that actually is my car. They'll be in the Alpine Academy. The other one will be in the Mercedes Academy, and obviously they both share the Mercedes chats. As it was kind of the closest thing I could find. There's only one team that doesn't have any that isn't going to be on the grid, and that's Charus. They're just they're going to be on their own. They won't be racing.
Yeah.
So those two Campos cars, they'll both be linked to Mercedes. One Alpine Academy, one Mercedes Academy.
Yeah, so next up we got Dams, a team that I've enjoyed their liveries in the last couple of games, so I think they have a very kind of clean, smooth finish on this one. On the first car anyway, I do like the first car for Dams.
Yeah, and they're going to be linked to AlphaTauri. Now obviously the second seat is Red Bull, so they'll obviously be in the Red Bull Academy. The first seat actually has Williams on it. So we've decided it was either between Dams or Carlin on who gets Williams, who gets AlphaTauri. We decided to give it to Dams for AlphaTauri, mainly because the first car, the first livery, like although it does say Williams there just beside the cockpit, it does actually have very, very similar kind of that dark blue colour to the AlphaTauri car, and then obviously the Red Bull and the link to Red Bull and AlphaTauri means that I thought this would be the closest representative, and they'll both be sharing that chat.
Yeah. Next up then we got Trident. This is like the Ferrari team.
It is the Ferrari. It was between them or Charus, and which looked most like Ferrari, and to be honest, thought the Cheroos cars just looked really ugly, so I decided to go
Yeah, they
with
do.
the Trident, and don't know, the strip of red kind of reminds you of Ferrari. It's unfortunate that there's no cars on the F2 grid, and hopefully that changes into 23. That looks like Ferrari. This is the closest representative we got, so we've decided it was between them or ART with how they look like Ferrari, but ART obviously has Sauber on it, so it's obviously not that. So these two are both Ferrari, and they're both also Ferrari Academy drivers.
Yep. And then our last team is VAR.
Yep, and they are Van Amersfoort Racing. They are going to be the Aston Martin. Again, the only team that probably the only team on the grid that looks nothing like the actual Aston Martin car, but we just needed one to look with them, and we've gone with the odd one out, are linked with them. So obviously both of these drivers will also be Mercedes Academy drivers.
Yeah, so that is all. That obviously Cheroux isn't participating, but we have other teams. These are the teams that are going to be um, racing on the grid next season, with whoever is driving at the hands of the wheel. But I'm excited. I am excited to see these F2 cars in action and see who comes out on top of them throughout the calendar. Now, the calendar is what we have to get to. Next season's calendar is huge. 14 races. It's the longest calendar we've had in this league. And I'll just grab a random car here. I'll grab the Red Bull. The first track of the season. I'll actually get the image up of it here because there's just so many races I'll get lost. Our first race, so despite all the controversy with F1 and this track, we're going to China for round one. So, Gaffa, what's your opinion on China?
Yeah, I really like China. I've only raced the league race in it once, and I've actually managed to win it. So I hope that the same repeats when we race there on the first round. I really do like the track, everything about it. I think although a lot of people don't like it, I really like especially turn one. I think it's a great way to go into turn one. Although people may think that it's where you can cause a lot of incidents, I think it's a very easy turn to avoid incidents, and I hope that stays the same when we race there. Obviously the two long straights, great chances for overtaking. Sector 2 is a very tricky part where drivers can come alive in that part of the track, and in reality it's just a really great and modern circuit that I'm excited to race at.
Absolutely, yeah. I think because F1 brought it back in, I just want to have every track raced on at least once in the season. So China, to put it first, is going to be really good, hopefully. And for Tier 1, obviously we're going to see Kajoko, who is confirmed to race with Ferrari next season. I know I'm giving a leak for the teams, but he's chosen to stay with the Ferrari team, so hopefully we'll see if he can keep up the same momentum for the F2 cars. I think this is going to be a good track for them, with that straight line speed. So it's going to be a good round one, I hope. We'll go to round two then. We'll go all the way back to basically the start of season 2. We're going to Bahrain. So obviously season 2 had a pretty shite start because the game was very new. But Bahrain will hopefully get a better race this year. Again, your thoughts on Bahrain?
I'm not a huge fan of Bahrain. I don't mind the track. Obviously, as a track itself, it is a really good track, and it's a fan favourite for many. For myself, I don't quite like it as much as others. But obviously it says there in track difficulty, it is an easy track. It's an easy track to learn. A lot of people do learn it, obviously it being the first race of the season for the last 2 years. It should be a very enjoyable race, tier 1 and 2, and we hope that it brings some enjoyable racing when we get there. But I don't have much of an opinion on the track because I'm not quite a huge fan of it, but sure, we'll soon find out.
Yeah, obviously nothing more to say about Bahrain. It's a good track. Honestly, some parts of it are good for overtaking, but there are parts of it where it is tough, and it can be boring at some parts as well. But that's the majority with some tracks. The next track, round three, is Silverstone, which is here. So again, Great Britain, one of the best tracks in the game by a mile, in my opinion. So many corners, so many good opportunities for overtaking. Um, what would you say about Great Britain?
This is the best track in the game. This is unreal for battling. This is unreal for overtaking. Drivers are able to stay so close and keep battling almost throughout the whole laps, no matter what age your tyres are on. It's going to be an unreal race when we go there, and especially in Tier 1 with the calibre of drivers, it's going to be so enjoyable seeing drivers battling it out throughout this track. It's my favourite. Well, I wouldn't say my favourite in the game, but it's definitely my favourite to watch in the game, and I can't wait till we go there.
Same, yeah. I think Great Britain last season showed us what exactly this track has to offer in the wet conditions, and it was it was one of the best races of season two, in my opinion. There's without a doubt, it was that qualifying session was amazing. Like there was drivers that stunned it, and then just a bit of controversy as well. But it was an amazing qualifying session. And then round four, for the first time, I was a bit unsure of choosing this track because of how many people don't like it. Um, round four on the 16th of February, so we're out of January, we're into February now. France. Very much overtaking Central. Um, I would say one of the easiest tracks because it's so much runoff area. Gaffer, what's your opinion on France as round four?
I think it's a very overhated track. Um, I think the racing actually is quite good around it, and I don't really know what really to say about it. Obviously, as you said, the overtaking is the main part of it, but obviously people can make mistakes. There are parts of the track, as shown in real life and in the game, where you can make mistakes and a safety car can be brought out, so it's not impossible for huge mistakes in this track. And obviously with the amount of runoff, people do decide to kind of push the limits a bit more because they feel like they've a lot of room for error, when in reality there's a lot less than you actually think. So it's going to be an unusual track, and it should be one that brings a lot more action in safety cars, because obviously with the barriers being so far away, it is really hard to crash. But that's saying it's not impossible to bring out one. There's been plenty brought out in the French Grand Prix before, and it should be a good race to kind of start or finish the start of the season.
Yeah, so coming to round five then. Round five looks pretty good. On the 23rd of February, we go to Imola. So obviously we were in Imola this season. It was, I want to say, round eight. Yeah, that race really spoke for itself. It's a good track, in my opinion. It's got a lot of history. Obviously McBot won it back in season one, so I wonder what the F2 cars would be like around Imola though.
Yeah, it's gotten really unlucky with its time on URC, and we hope that that changes this year, but next season. But we'll soon find out. Obviously, season one wasn't as bad as you think. Obviously, the four safety cars made it a lot worse, and I may or may not have caused one of them. But yeah, it is going to be it is a really good track. Like, you don't want to put too much hate in it, because I've raced in it before. I've won a race in it before. I've watched and commentated on races in it before. It is a really good track with lots of action. Especially, obviously, it has a high chance of rain, as shown in real life. But we'll find out if there is any rain to come. Obviously, there's no sprint races or anything like that, which maybe might be a bit of a downside towards the track, but it should be very interesting when we go to it.
Yeah, for sure. Round six then, so we're into like basically the second bunch of races. Round six, we go to the infamous Portugal. So another new track. So it's two of the new tracks I think that we're adding. Oh no, it's just these two tracks. Portugal. I think I think you like this track from LOI, so
Yeah,
I'll let you
it is
speak
a
about
good
it.
track. I think my one lap pace around it is definitely really good, and obviously my just qualifying in general around it. Um, as far as races go, I think the actual battling isn't that great. I remember when I raced in it, starting on pole, um, I did drop back a good few places after a early pit stop from damage, and it's actually really hard to quite get in that. Especially, you might think that it's a lot easy to overtake. It's actually really hard coming out of that final turn there onto the main straight is really your only overtaking opportunity. And going into turn one, if you look, turn one isn't very heavy braking. It's more of just a little brake, and you kind of coast through the corner. It's not really almost like where turn five is. If that was maybe a little bit of a longer straight, it'd be a much better overtaking opportunity. But it is quite hard to overtake in this track unless you have really a lot more straight line speed than the car ahead. So qualifying is important, and you don't want to make a mess of it, like Marley did in LOI. So we'll find out when we get there. Obviously, when I was looking at it, it's also very easy to get penalties. So if you are out in front and you get penalties, once you get it, it's very hard to break away on this track. As much as it's hard to overtake, it's also very hard to break away. So it's going to be a very interesting track strategy wise on how to get in front and stay in front when you do get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the F2 cars as well, strategies are going to be different to those of the F1 cars for sure, on what tire you start on and what tire you go to the end on. But we'll move on from Portugal. We'll go to round 7. So we go back to the season 1 opener in Spain. Spain provided a good race, I think, in season 1. In my opinion, it was. I enjoyed watching it anyway. There were some good battles, but what do you think of Spain?
I think obviously it must bring a lot of nostalgia the way you look back at it. Obviously, again, another one of my races that didn't quite go my way, but yeah, it is a good track. I would have liked to actually seen it as maybe the opener, bring back a bit of a throwback to season 1 and have it as the opener. But it still should bring good round. It is a good place to have it. It's the last one before we go into that mid-season break.
Yeah.
That I'm looking there now, so it's a good way for people to ease into it. Again, like Portugal, it's actually a very hard track to overtake on that big long main straight, because obviously that stupid fucking chicane where you can't get quite close to the car. But it still should be a good track to watch, and we'll see what tier 1 and 2. Obviously, tier 2 do race around it quite a lot, so we'll see what both of those cars have to offer when they do go there.
No worries. No, yeah. That I'm excited for Spain to go back to it. I think it's going to be a great race. That's on 9th of March, and that's the halfway point of the season as well. So we're pretty much we go from Asia to the Middle East, and then it's Europe for the last half of the first half of the season, and then into the second half of the season, we obviously have a week break from the 9th of March on until the 23rd of March. So we're back on the 23rd for Austria. It's been a track that has usually appeared in the second half of the season. It always feels like it's a good track to start the second half off, and obviously Austria this season was a fantastic race. Was Austria on the calendar this season?
It was, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was one of the ones early on in the season. I think it was no, I think it was a sprint race yet again. Let me check
I'm
out.
trying to think now. I actually can't remember.
I have the score up here. Um,
I'm just curious if it was.
no,
If
actually, it wasn't.
wasn't.
It wasn't.
Okay, yeah.
So it was season 2, and that infamous season 2 race. Obviously, everyone knows what happened there. The Alpine 1-2.
Yeah.
The sprint race, SJR, and it's having a picnic in the grass and accidentally hitting a wall.
Yeah.
Like, I think qualifying as well. I remember coming back from training, and I turned on the race and looked at qualifying, and it's just about half, probably more than half the grid, doing donuts in turn 1. What else? Big Gits masterclass.
Oh my God.
There was a lot of there was a lot of drama, and to be honest, it actually was a really good race because of even despite all that, it was a really interesting race, especially up the front on who would win it. I think actually Rayan kind of broke away a little bit more, but then for who would get the podium, that was like about a 5-way battle if I remember for the podium.
Yeah.
It was absolutely crazy, and obviously no sprint race to help that out this time around, but still should be a really good race. Obviously, for how easy the track is, it does be very hard for some to get quite high up, and we'll find out whether or not it'll be easy for them next season.
Yeah. So looking at round 8, then I'm loving round 7 and round 8 because there's 2 tracks after Austria that are just amazing. Round 8 is Belgium. Now we got treated to an incredible Belgium Grand Prix this season. We had Tomaz getting P2 in the Williams, Rayan, Banter King, and S Junior all fighting it down to the last lap. It was one of the best races this season. Can we expect the same? And not only Tier 1 next season, but Tier 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm sure obviously it's a very long track, and for Tier 2 it's going to be really tough, because obviously being that long track, they're not quite great on the aerodynamics. F2, they're quite hard to kind of turn in, so with all the corners and obviously being a really fast track as well, Belgium, it is going to be really a really long race, or a long enduring race for F2. But it should be a very interesting one. Belgium has offered up some great races in the past. Obviously season 1 didn't go quite as planned with that long safety car glitch, but when it did get solved, I think the last 7 or 8 laps, I think it was very interesting, and the same obviously happened this season, and we're hoping the same happens next season.
Yeah. Moving on from Belgium, then we have the Grand Prix that feels closest to home, and that is Singapore, round 9. Is that round 9? 5? Oh, sorry, no. Singapore is round 10. So that's on the 6th of April. And obviously this season Singapore was a fantastic race. Very unforeseen conditions in the majority of that race. And oh my God, drivers are joining like no tomorrow.
How much have we got?
We've got a few in actually over the stream. We have
Douglas is in, yeah, and then I don't know who that other guy is.
Since 2 o'clock, 4 drivers have joined.
Yeah,
so
that's good. Since
really,
half
really good.
1, there's been 6. I think I got another lad in who might be able to reserve. He's doing the leave and cert this year, so he's gonna kind of take it easy.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's good to have reserves anyway. He said he can do a few races here and there, so I'll send him over an invite now.
No worries. Well, we'll move on.
Yep.
Obviously, Singapore. I think it was a dry.
You can talk about this yourself. This is your favorite track, so go ahead.
Singapore is merely one of my favorites because I've actually stepped on foot on the track, so it's amazing. It's such a cool track. The fact that it's you see the streets when you actually go there and you stand on the track and you see out of turn 2, it doesn't actually feel real. And then obviously you see the track being made and everything. It's really, really cool. But the race this season 1 was absolutely unbelievable. It was a dry qualifying, and then in the race, just torrential rain on the first lap, A lot of big shockers. Wolf's killing his teammate. Um, McBosh probably called him a proddy cunt, but um, Kajoko in the wall. Can't remember who won it. Marley won it. Marley won the race. It was the perfect way, in my opinion, to start off the season. So I'm hoping Singapore at round 10, especially when the championship could be so close, knowing the tier 1 drivers that we have right now. I'm excited. It's going to be an incredible first 10 races. And then the last four are very, very good. The last four kind of looks at um, the grid before, like Jeddah was like the early stages. So round 11 is the USA. We go back to the Circuit of Americas. We didn't go there this season, but we were there in season 2, and Banter King won that race. He fought Rayan on the last lap, and Rayan was trying to get by, and he couldn't. It was a great race until Twin Gene decided to smash into the wall and make love to the wall. But obviously that kind of ruined the race. But other than that, I thought USA was a very good race, and that's on the 13th of April.
Yeah, I don't mind Kota. I think it's an okay track. I'd probably have preferred Miami, but I'm sure we'll go back there eventually. But it should still line up a quite interesting race, and I hope to see how I do there. Obviously, I think I finished on the podium in an LOI race there before, but I think I had 8 seconds of penalties, so that dropped me back. But yeah, it's a good race to it's a really good race to race on. Obviously, shown in the past that it is a very don't really know how to say, but it's very good track as far as battles. Obviously, FaZe and Tween had a very good battle. I think SJR and Marley had a good battle as well. Obviously, both of them ended quite badly, but sure, I think it all worked out for Marley in the end, and it also all worked out for FaZe with what Twin decided to do. But sure, I'm hopefully that when we go back there isn't any sort of repeat of that. Obviously, the league has come a long way since season 1 and 2, and it should be a cracking race.
Absolutely. And then we come down to the final 3 races. So no Abu Dhabi for next season. Abu Dhabi has appeared twice now, but a lot of people were definitely not happy with this when they saw the calendar. The fact that Jeddah is on the calendar again, Saudi Arabia for the 3rd time in a row is on the calendar. It was on season 2. It was season 3.
I'm pretty sure it was on season 1 as well. We just never got to it because it was the last 5 races, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. Jeddah wasn't on it, no. But yeah, Saudi Arabia is round 12. So if it was following other seasons, it would have been the finale. But we also have 2 extra races this season. So yeah, Saudi Arabia, round 12. This is where the championship obviously could get interesting, depending on how close it might be. Pressure could build. We could see mistakes being made, because Jeddah is a very easy track to make a mistake, Gaffo, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's obviously very close to the walls. That has shown how hard Jeddah is throughout its time in URC, that there has been big mistakes happening. And it's also infamously been a very FaZe dominated track, so I'm sure he'll hope for the same when he goes back there. But we'll see. We'll see whether or not he can do the same again.
Yep. And then we move to round number 13, and we go back to Mexico for this race. Mexico this season I thought was very good. and there was obviously some controversial moments between Bott and Kajoko, but obviously Bunsey won that race in the end and pulled off a very good lead um, on those medium tires. So Mexico as the penultimate round of the season. What's your opinion on that, Gaffo?
Um, yeah, it is a very interesting calendar in the way that it goes from Jeddah, it goes from US out to Jeddah and then back into Mexico. Obviously, Mexico is infamous for its really tough Sector 2, and then Sector 1, obviously that straight pretty much goes along the whole rest of the track, if you put it kind of vertically, or I should say horizontally. It kind of goes straight across what is the rest of the track. Obviously, I don't like the last time I raced here with an absolute idiot going down the second straight, but it should be a
I
really
know who
good
you're
race
talking about.
going towards the end of the season.
Oh,
And obviously, like last season, it was kind of the title was getting a little bit shaky between Kajoko, Bunsey, and obviously FaZe was still in it. I don't know if SJR was racing that race. I didn't really know if he was or not. But obviously, things were getting shaky. Collisions were happening. There was a bit of controversy, but it all turned out well for Bunsey, and we'll soon find out if there is another championship, if history repeats itself.
yeah, that's for sure. We know Bunsey will hopefully be gunning back in the new year to try and get himself a championship because he does have championship worthy material in that car, obviously that he was driving in the Aston Martin. And then the finale, the last race of season 4. Don't know what's going to happen with season 5, to be honest. If it's going to happen in the summer, it might be a short season. I don't know. I'm away in August till December.
It is probably going to be a very short season.
Yeah,
May to July, or probably early July.
If we can push it as
maybe what
far
League of
as we
Ireland
can,
done.
really, like if we can get it to even into early August, like very, very early August or at the very end of
I
July.
don't know. I kind of wanted to do that as well. Kind of just get it to late July or August, and the drivers just started to drop. People were running out of space. They had the new game. They just wanted to get rid of the old game. And I
Yeah.
think in my final race of the season, I think I only had around 12, 13 drivers. I think the best thing to do is finish either on the week of release of the new game or the week after, because people don't mind keeping a week after. Obviously, you don't want to start on the new game too early either, because people might not get it because of other stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So it should be a fairly short season. Maybe could only fit in 10 races, but we'll see what happens when we get to that stage.
Yeah.
Obviously, are we talking about then the finale? Obviously now going into
We are talking
Going
about
into-
so the last track of season 4 is Brazil. Brazil is going to be the finale, and obviously last week we saw one of the best races ever as well. Brazil was beyond unbelievable. It was such a good race. Besides Jinx being an absolute idiot, that race it was a very, very good race. Kajoko obviously didn't have to fight for a lot of things that race. He was just needed a top 6 finish, but we saw some great battles between Marley, Wicked Red, Tamaz got a race win.
I think the great strategies as well. I think
Yeah.
the Banter King, and I think I think Sergio, and did anyone else go? I think Kajoko might have tried at the hards until the wet period.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think Banter King and Sergio were the only ones that pulled it off, and it worked really well in Sergio's favour. I think Banter King spun when it came to the really tough periods on the hard tyres, but it was a really good race to watch.
It was.
I was away in I was out with my parents, but I was looking at it on my phone, and it was very interesting to watch. Obviously, some great battles going on, especially after that second safety car period, when Banter and Sergio stayed out. It was really it was kind of like fast versus slow and who could get by. It was a really interesting race, and then obviously with the rain at the end spiced everything up, changed strategies completely around, because I think at one stage I was thinking to myself, while looking at it, I said this is going to end horribly for the guys on the hards because this rain might not even come. And luckily, when it did come, it came heavy, and everyone needed to go on to the intermediates. I think it was Bluefoot who tried to stay out, and that didn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
An incredible race, and we're hoping for the same, a perfect way to end off the season.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. Brazil was very good, and I enjoyed it a lot. Qualifying was good as well, and then obviously the race had a bunch of different scenarios throughout it. But that is pretty much the calendar. A lot of the drivers are saying to talk about potential lineups. Obviously, because some drivers obviously in tier two do have their teams kind of like given to them already, but obviously we still have to have the trials next week and see if that driver is actually suitable for the tier they're racing in. And obviously that will be decided down the line, but we'll look at some of just the main teams who have been racing with us um, for the previous seasons and just how they might be able to improve going into the new season. So obviously Ferrari have had their best season, winning the constructors title and the drivers title with Kajoko. Red Bull, in my opinion, have been the team that have been on the downfall. They haven't been very good. I would say that's the same for not Alpine. I think I'm thinking of McLaren. McLaren
McLaren.
haven't been very good either. It's Red Bull and McLaren. Mercedes have had a bit of a shocker as well this season. It's really been Red Bull, Aston Martin. Aston Martin have done very well under Bunsey this season. Same with the Williams and Haas teams. But other than that, there's a lot of room for improvement for other teams now going into the new season. Any team you pick out there?
I think about the Constructors' Championship is I always try to focus on the Constructors. Obviously, Ferrari kind of ran away with it this year. But if you look there, McLaren to Alfa Romeo are only separated by 12 points. Like, it is like still going to be very interesting going into the final round to see if McLaren can get out of 10th and who can battle. Obviously, also looking, there's a bit of a battle for 5th between AlphaTauri and Alpine, and then there's still a huge battle for 2nd between Haas, Williams and Aston Martin, so there's still a lot to play for. It still should be a very interesting end to the season as far as the constructors go. People kind of racing for their place in the championship as well. And as far as the constructor that has impressed me most, probably has to be Ferrari, obviously with Kajoko and Azza doing so well for the majority of the season. Mainly Kajoko, I suppose, but obviously Canada speaks for itself and how well that points finish went. Obviously Netherlands the same. Jeddah, Brazil, I think was a really good team play as far as watching that.
Yeah.
I think as far as teams that have disappointed me most, I'd have to say, when looking at the Red Bull lineup at the start of the year, I thought they'd be real almost contenders for the constructors, and with all the transfers that have gone around and people dancing to different teams, I think it's been a really tough season for them. And obviously with Rayan leaving as well, it's been a really tough year for them, and I hope they bounce back going into season 4.
Yeah, Red Bull have had their toughest season. I did think they were going to be, with them getting McBoss at the start of the season, I thought this was it for Red Bull. I thought they'd be competitive and have a really good shot at, taking it to Ferrari and the likes of Aston Martin, obviously with Bunsey being in there. But I think this, as you said, obviously the transfers of drivers in there, Joshi moving from Williams to Red Bull, it obviously gave Williams a chance to get a better driver, but there was not much improvements from Red Bull this season. Their best result obviously was Belgium with Rayan winning that race, but after that they had a drastic drop off. McLaren, again, obviously Banter King, he hasn't had his best season at all. He's been very, I don't want to say underperforming, but it's not the Banter King we saw in the previous season and I can say the exact same for McBot. Last season, these two were battling at the top with each other, dominating the
Well, to be
competition.
fair to Banter King, he has missed a lot of races, and then the races where he has finished, he's actually finished quite highly. Obviously, fifth in the first round. I think he actually won the first round on track, but obviously penalties dropped him down a bit.
Yeah,
There was Netherlands, that was a really good finish. Obviously, DNF'd in Canada, DNF'd in Monaco, didn't race in Jeddah, finished fourth in Belgium. Like, to be fair, where he did race, he done quite well. Very unlucky in Mexico, and then obviously you could say the same for his risky move in Brazil. DNF'd in the other three races before that. Like, it has just been a real unlucky season. As far as McBot, he has just had a lot of poor results. Seventh in Singapore, eighth in Netherlands, ninth in Monaco, obviously winning his only race of the season in Jeddah. Sixth in Belgium. Another good result, I suppose, in Mexico, and then DNF'd and didn't race. DNF'd the last three and didn't race in Brazil. So it has been just a very annoying season for McBot as far as actual performance-wise. The front three have kind of just ran away with it, and even then, again, SGR's had his fair share of poor performances, with mainly just Kajoko and Bunsey being the ones that were out on top winning races.
yeah, absolutely. Well, FaZe will hopefully be able to gun back next season and get into this title fight. But just obviously, as we come to the end of the season, who, like, we'll say out of the top 10 drivers, because obviously, as you know, Griffin hasn't had a great season. He's been underperforming. Out of the top 10 drivers, who has been the one driver that has really stuck out in terms of their performance? Any driver in particular that might have shocked you or surprised you? Who would you choose?
Um, hmm. As far as in a good way or in a poor way?
In a good way.
I'd say then probably definitely Tomas, and I think that's quite obvious. Looking at his performance at the start of the season, you probably wouldn't expect much, but then I think after Belgium, like, he done really well in Belgium, and very unfortunate to DNF, but the podium in Mexico, obviously again out in Imola, very unlucky in Baku. I think he was running quite high at one stage when he overtook me. A fairly decent result in Hungary, and then obviously getting that win in Brazil shows that he has been quite good when he needs to be. Obviously a great result in Monaco as well, getting P4. Like, when he has got himself up in the fourth place, so you need to give credit for that. No matter what way he's got there, I think he's made it to every single race, and if he doesn't DNF 4 times next season, he definitely could be up there with SJR. Even, I could say, the title fight, if he just tries to score high and not make mistakes, and hopefully not DNF, because that's kind of how his season has held him back a lot. As far as his all-round pace, realistically he could be a title contender, but you still have to give credit to him. He's got himself into fourth, he's got 2 podiums, he's got multiple high finishes, and all round a fairly good season.
And who would you say has been the driver that has underperformed in terms of not having a good season at all? Who would you pick? I'm sure there's a fairly obvious person down in 18th.
As much as I have to say it, well, no, I wouldn't say. Well, Ryan Curran is a spin merchant anyway, so he's normally down there. I'd have to say Griffin after his season. Tony finished 11th and not even have any top 5 finishes whatsoever. I think is quite disappointing to look at. And if he's in Tier 1 next season, I hope to see that he does a lot better than he has this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Griffin has obviously, he's on the wheel this season, and he is obviously working on no traction. But you know, the results, as much as you can try and say I'm on wheel and everything, they do speak a lot and they say a lot about it. this season. It obviously hasn't been good. Um, I think Banter King's underperformed as well as a driver, only ninth in the championship. He hasn't really had a better season. He had one podium in the Netherlands, and after that, he just kind of dropped down um, the order. Another driver has that. I think Ryan Curran has a lot more potential in him. We saw his podium in Azerbaijan. He has a lot more to offer in Tier 1 next season. I'm I'm hoping that obviously Abu Dhabi will be a good
Why
race
didn't
for
he get
him
those points for his podium in Azerbaijan?
because he was classified as a reserve.
Oh,
That's
okay, I
why
thought they still got points though. Alright, never
I think it's
mind.
something we can look into for next season, like if
Yeah,
reserves to get points.
well, I think that is the rule in a lot of leagues. It's the rule in my own, and um, what's it called as well? League of Ireland, obviously. If you do reserve in a tier and you end up getting put in that tier, I think you do get your points that you got when you did reserve. So I don't know. I think that is definitely something to look into for next season. If it doesn't affect the constructor status, obviously you don't want that being affected.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but yeah, obviously the last race is this week. Obviously the championship is settled, but there are a couple of battles still to be settled as well. So McBoss, Tomas, Wicked Red, they're fairly close to each other. Wolves, I would say, is out for a fifth place finish in this championship after his poor result
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Anyway,
in Brazil. I won't comment on his skill. I know you will, but I won't. Um, OP Gamer, again, he's probably out of it, because he was unfortunate not to make Brazil this week. Banter King, no, I think it's between Tomas McBot and Wicked Red. He'd like a good result. S Junior, I'm not sure. I don't think he is safe to keep that P3, but he might be able to still get a good result and finish third
I personally, my prediction, I think he'll win in Abu
in Abu
Dhabi.
Dhabi.
I really want him to get his first win of the season. He's the only one in the top five that hasn't got a win, and I hope that if he's there, that he's the one that wins it.
Yeah, because he has been unfortunate. Like Singapore P2, Canada P4, Netherlands. Like he started off the season very very well. Um, four podiums at a P4, and then after that it just went downhill in terms of Mexico. Mexico he DNF'd in all three sessions. Imola he didn't race. Um, Azerbaijan he got very unlucky on that race, only getting 6 points, and then Hungary he DNF'd as well. It was unfortunate for him to DNF that race, and obviously he didn't get to partake in Brazil either. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Obviously after Abu Dhabi, there will be an awards stream, so we'll have the champion in here. Say a few words. Obviously we'll probably have Gaffo back to give out like the award of the season to the driver who's most improved driver. We might have McBot on for a few words. Um, and then after that we have pretty much 3 weeks of a break to obviously plan out the tiers. The trials won't be streamed. They're going to be happening behind closed doors, just so that people won't get any ideas of what tiers they're in or start worrying and start panicking. Tiers
Well,
obviously aren't.
it's not more that. I think it's more of the fact that like they are trials. They're not that important to really be streaming. No one wants to really judge a driver on their trials. I think it's more just the two lads that are probably yourself and I don't know whoever you're going to bring with you on your tier 1 commentary journey, but I think you need to just kind of get into it, have a look, keep an eye on drivers, keep an eye on the battles, how the racing's going, and decide which tier, because obviously if someone's fast, like a little bit fast, but it's also not very clean, you don't want to stick them in tier 1 and something happens throughout the season. You might just want to stick them in tier 2. They might win a few races, they might even win the whole thing, but you want people to be able to kind of use tier 2 as a learning tool instead of an actual championship. You don't want people to get too comfortable in tier 2 or there won't be they won't be trying to improve, which is what the whole point is. You are trying to improve. You're trying to get into Tier 1. That's the Champions League. That's the World Cup. You want to be there.
Yeah,
That's the big league. You want to be there.
and
So
obviously,
if people start getting too comfortable, they're gonna
just before
they're not gonna
I
get better.
announce a date for the teams to be announced, Gaff, obviously, if you're going to be in Tier 2, is that your aim? Is that the goal to get back into racing in Tier 1? Or what is your aim for F2? If you can't get into Tier 1, what's the aim?
It's probably just to hopefully win a few races and be up there at least. Obviously, I'm on the no assists now, so it's going to be quite difficult for me. I'm going to have a few poor results, a few DNFs, probably a lot of spins. But like, I need just some kind of racing that is going to help me improve, and it's the whole reason I wanted to get back into URC. I want to relive the old moments and hopefully just have some good battles and learn in a good way instead of having to do what maybe some of the other drivers do and just sit on time trial for 2 hours every day. I don't want to do that. I want to race. I want to enjoy. Like, the whole point of playing F1 isn't actually to just to get better. It's actually really is, at the end of the day, it's to enjoy yourself. And if I'm not doing that, then I wouldn't be racing. So I think the whole point of me coming back here is obviously to learn, get a bit better, and hopefully just enjoy my racing again.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that's what every driver should aim to do, because obviously the Tier 1 drivers, pressure's on them to stay up. There's not much pressure on Tier 2. There's nowhere to go if they don't do well in the season. They just remain in Tier 2. But obviously a Tier 1 driver has more pressure. If they don't perform and they're not meeting the standard, they get dropped and they get replaced with someone who might actually have the potential to race in Tier 1. So, yeah, for now, that is it. But for the team's announcement, well, we obviously have to decide all that and we have time. So the team's announcement will be on the 20th of January. So I think that's about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks away. So yeah, good bit of time to sort out the new drivers, get them settled in, and obviously the trials next week. So a busy 3 weeks ahead of us, but I'm on co-op in the college anyway, so I'm not working anywhere like that's far, or I should be able to allocate some time as well, a bit more time into the league, and I won't have any assignments. I'll just have like work to do for my co-op, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, so so you know the calendar now. It's 14 races long. We're going to be racing from the end of January till the beginning of May. Obviously, tier 2 will end on the 5th of May. Tier 1 will end on the 4th of May. So may the 4th be with them. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see how Tier 2 goes. I'm probably more excited for the Tier 2 races than I am for the Tier 1, because it's going to be the first time I'll see F2 cars actually racing, and it won't obviously be me driving it. But yeah, it's going to be really fun. And yeah, we'll see you this Thursday anyway, 9 o'clock for Abu Dhabi, and then that's going to be it for a 3 week break. So we'll see you all very, very soon. Thanks, Gaffo, as well, for joining this.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And we'll hopefully see you around again soon.
Of course.
To everyone in the stream as well, thank you for liking it. If I missed any of your comments or anything, just Arda celebrating about Tamaz. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this stream. If you've missed the calendar, you can obviously always watch back the video. The stream saves as a video, which is handy, and you can watch that back if you missed anything. But there's more interesting stuff to come, which is the teams. Calendar's not really that interesting, but it's more the teams that are more exciting. So yeah, we'll see you then, and goodbye.